what would you say to your friends' parents?
That's a tricky one. I've thought about that so often. You know, it is such a, you know, non-existent thought in, you know, our society's head that you're going to get so many bad looks and, you know, people thinking, you know, such bad things about you if you don't know what to say. And for me, you know, I'm not planning on going home and bringing a textbook home of, you know, math and sitting there for 6.5 hours at my house and writing. It's the same thing. I'm planning on doing things that I care about. And, you know, if writing is one of those things for you, then take a creative writing class or go home and write, or, you know, go to the school. And if you like their English class, take an English class there. But really, if I could suggest any one thing for you to say, it would be that you are homeschooling, because that is something that has been done. And that, you know, I mean, some of our greatest people in history, you can also mention Albert Einstein, for an example, got terrible grades because he couldn't relate to anything that they were teaching him, because it was all theory. It was all theoretic. He couldn't trace back, you know, anything that he was learning to an actual event that had, you know, occurred in his life. And for me, that's, you know, made a huge difference on why I can't remember, why I don't care about what I'm learning. It's like, none of it makes any sense. Why would I want to hear about this? It doesn't even, where does that play out in my life? And it doesn't. You're not going to find an answer. You can ask your teachers. In fact, I have countless times, and they tell you over and over and over again, oh, well, it's something every child has to learn. But if you question that, why? Like, why would you sit there and dedicate and devote your entire childhood, throw it away so that you can learn a bunch of useless facts and data? It doesn't make any sense. And it won't, no matter how hard you think about it. So I'm telling you, if you want to get, you know, to that point where you actually care about what you're doing, the best way to do it is to drop out of school. And as far as, you know, what anybody else thinks, really, it's completely unimportant. As long as you're doing something and you're making progress in what you're doing, like, you know, if your parents or your friends' parents, you know, come over to pick their friend, you know, or come over to see you or ask you what you've been doing, and all you've been doing is playing video games or sitting on your ass eating potato chips, like watching TV, then you're not going to have anything, you know, to say. You're not going to have anything to stand for, and they're, you know, gonna think it's the worst possible thing for you to be doing. But if you're actually, you know, can come home, if you can come home every single day after school or after, you know, your homeschooling thing and tell your parents, guess what I learned today? Wow, I can do a 360 now, you know, on a skateboard or a snowboard. Maybe they'll actually, you know, consider it as something that's worthwhile. Because really, how many skills do you obtain while you're going through school? I mean, sure, you can sprout off a couple wise math equations, like, but you can't plug it into the real world. You don't know how to wire a house, no matter how many, you know, freaking formulas you know. If you don't have the actual knowledge of how to bring it all back and center it all and, you know, apply it to something real and tangible, then it's not worth having at all. And if you can stop going to school and stop learning all of these theories and facts and data, and instead, you know, gain real life skills, then you're going to be so much better off in the future. I can tell you right now, you're going to, you know, I mean, can you imagine knowing 4 languages by the time you're 15, and instead of having learned them through reading textbooks, having actually traveled places and, you know, sat there and learned the culture through just observing what's going on? And, you know, how much better would that be if you could actually learn through kinesthetics? And you can. And it shocked me too, but it's available to you if you're willing to take that step and trust yourself. I'm presenting an opportunity to you right now, and I'm not telling you that you have to take it, but if you care about doing what you want to do for the rest of your life, and if you want to escape the 6.5 hours a day, mind fudge that the school system has pounded into you, then this is it. And you really just have to trust yourself and trust those around you to present, something worthwhile. And if you can do that, then I will promise you that you're going to be a much happier person throughout your life. And how many people do you know that have regrets about what they did do? It's always what they didn't do. I mean, if you're 60 years old and you have just retired and you're too old to actually do what you care about, then are you going to look back and go, wow, I wish I had dropped out of school and taken that young person's advice? Yes. So take it. It's yours. It's yours now. If I could say one thing that, it astounded me when I was sitting in school suspension one day, and actually the person who was serving the in-school suspension with me had 6 kids, and she had presented them all with the option to drop out of school and do things that they cared about. And she could tell me through, personal, observancy that the kids that had dropped out of school and had done stuff that they cared about were still doing things that they cared about and were 10 times more successful than those that were going through the school system. And she told me, how many different ways there are to get out of school. I mean, you can get your GED. It's, different legal stuff in different states, but at least in Oregon, you can get your GED when you're 16 or over that. So if you actually care about having some sort of diploma, some, written certificate, then, there are definitely options for you to do that. You can, take to be a foreign exchange student. You can, one of the things that I have sincerely thought about, if you have a flexible superintendent or flexible principal, then you can go in and talk to them and actually find ways that you can still get your actual high school diploma by doing different things. Like instead of taking a Spanish class, you can go to Mexico and, come back. I don't even think, in my school, the, option has been there for me to travel to some place where they speak Spanish, and I didn't have to do any homework. I could just soak it up, live life in Mexico while I was there. There are so many different things that you can do. You can go and apprentice a biologist who actually is doing what you've been learning about, is actually applying it to real life, and get credits that way. Like, there are so many different options that you have that it would surprise me if you didn't take any of them, if you are as like-minded as myself. And really, oh God, it kills me that people, know that they hate the school system, but they're not gutsy enough to do anything about it, because really that's what, sinks my spirits lower than you can imagine. It's that people know what they have to do and they don't do it because of what other people think or because of what they're afraid is going to happen. And if you live your life in fear, then you're not going to get anywhere, and I can assure you of that. So be courageous and go for what you love, and you're going to live a much happier life. I promise.